back in the day, I was an aerospace engineer, and you were an icon in our office. It's I remember this, God, the early 90s, 92 or 93, I believe your cartoon was out there, but I don't think you were on your own yet at that time, were you? In 93-ish?
Well, I was working with the syndication company. I think I still had my job until 95-ish. So I had my day job, but I was also doing the comic at the same time.
What was the reasoning behind that? Like, why did you... because it seemed like it was a pretty long stretch from when you started it, I think it was in 89 at least when you first published it, to when you left in the mid-90s. Why was that... Where was that gap there? Just there was the money thing, or what was it?
Well, it was money at first, because the cartoon really was almost dead on arrival. It was picked up by 35 newspapers, which would be, maybe a few $100s a month in revenue. And even they weren't running it. It was common to buy a comic because somebody thought it might be popular later, and they didn't want their competition to have it. So in those days, there would be usually 2 newspapers in every market. So if one saw a comic that only cost, let's say $7 a month, or $7 a week, I think, to just hold it and hold the rights, they would buy it preemptively. So almost everybody who bought it on the first wave of sales didn't even plan to run it. They were just buying it in case somebody else liked it. So
Interesting.
It was not what you'd call a successful launch. But, I sort of did a lot of my own publicity and tried to, turn it into something. When I started focusing on the workplace as a theme, that's when it got a life of its own and took off. And the internet was brand new, and it was something that you could easily send on the internet because it was a relatively small file. It was before video worked well. Mm-hmm. And so it just took off like crazy on the internet, and that allowed the newspapers to have a little, let's say, comfort in knowing that it had an audience, and it took off. So it took several years to build up to the point where I could leave my day job, but I still stayed probably 3 years longer than I needed to, and that's the big mystery. Is like, why the extra 3 years? And the interesting answer is it's purely psychological, because I was getting my material from work. So I was thought, well, I might run out of material and I can't be a cartoonist unless I also have a job. You never know what exactly is the secret sauce that makes something work. But the main thing is that as soon as I knew I could leave any time I wanted financially, work didn't hurt. It stopped hurting.
Yeah.
If I'm going to miss a deadline, I'd think, I did my best. But, in the old days, you'd still do your best, but then you'd also feel bad and you'd worry and the consequences and the rest of your life and your career. And none of that mattered. And then I go to a meeting, which normally would be so frustrating because people are just idiots sometimes. And they'll just be blah, blah, blah. And you just want to get up and start hitting them with a rolled up newspaper. But you can't. You can't. They won't let you. So those meetings used to drive me crazy. But once I started seeing them as material for the comic, I'd have my little notepad under the table, and I'd just be like, more on that? Could you drive down to a little detail on that, please?